Good morning, class. Welcome to Homeroom with Unc and Market Monk. Morning, P. How's your week?
Really good, really solid. Friday had some stuff really take off. Just building positions at a few pivots. Solar surprisingly did really well for me. I just thought that would take longer, but I guess just kind of shows that when you get a really good pivot, that's kind of what you should stick with. And big lesson I took from it. I mean, honestly, was first solar was really where to be as far as my style. Enphase did fine, but it was a lot harder to trade that. And I think we talked about that, but I had so much more history with it that I was still in that one about 50-50. But yeah, really good overall.
I think Run ended up being the best over there for me. It's
Oh yeah,
FSOLR
yeah,
is kind of an investment. Just a lot of good, yeah, a lot of good. The park and wait. If you waited, you did okay. The anticipation of the week kind of paid off for me. I've always tried to have like a spot where we should go, a spot where I think the trend is going to change, and it just gives you a little more confidence when that actually happens. This week it kind of seemed like we had time. At 3 days kind of down there at the same level on most charts. So you got a couple of chances to get entries. Negative, if you're starting anything new, you probably didn't get a lot of it. But it's real hard to get bagged here unless you're buying open at 5. I mean, that's
yeah,
kind of how I feel about the market right now. And on the other hand, just don't be greedy and just keep stacking it up. I think I said that about a month ago, and it's just worked. Um, the conversation we're going to have about the rest of the year, I think, will be be a really good guide. Because I do think things should change here over the next, let's say 4 to 6 weeks. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's what strike while the iron's hot. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It kind of feels like we're Groundhog's Day in here every week. It's just a different set of stocks, but we're getting the same action over and over again. So that widening or that frothing of the market is just it's going to continue. It just is going to continue. It's just where it's going to continue at.
Yeah, and looking for opportunities, I had a note. I had a note on Nvidia on Friday. Now, clearly, the entry for it was under 100. We were really pounding the table on that. But if you're just looking for, I mean, a trade, particularly the option side, it was down 2% pre-market on news of halting production of a chip and whatever. But you're going into a Friday. You got a ton of options expiring. Um, you're likely going to get a decent pop on that, and then you add the J Powell speech follow through on. So basically, like keep a runner if it's running. It was the perfect setup for that. So when you see, and earlier in the week, even just the Nasdaq in general, you know, you're down over 2% in 2 days. To get more of a follow through down's very difficult right now because there's a lot of options setups that for months out from now that whales would rather not see fall apart. I mean, that's just kind of how I see how they operate. That the market will pull back, but they step in and they don't actively even do anything. I mean, the orders are already there for when stocks pull back. That they're going to try to find some equilibrium. Doesn't mean they're just going to the moon from there, but you can't really start just thinking about shorting after you see a big drop over a couple of days. Worst time to do it. You don't. I mean, your best entry is a green candle for shorting, and that side of it is already much more difficult. So it's the oxen thing, the analogy we make with that. Um, we're still there. I mean, it's going to be hard to turn this around and keep it going if you're looking to short things. So I just don't. I puts are quick hitters. That's just how I approach it.
Yeah, they're just an overall picture. There's not. I mean, I watch a lot of level two, and when things do pull back, kind of see what happens, and it's the same kind of action both ways, and there's just not a lot of sellers when we do get any kind of pullback, and the volume comes from people stepping in to buy, and I've kind of sold myself on like, well, why is the market so um, what's attractive currently to people? Well, like if you're an older guy, or if you're any retail, and you were kind of savvy, you got your 3 to 5% out of something, something safe. Maybe you just traded SPY. Well, it's not really keeping up with inflation. So, getting into equities makes it look a little more attractive. You have to be a little more savvy, so to speak, to keep up with inflation. And I think we're just kind of seeing that, not retail pile in, but retail looking for better avenues for their money. Whether you just sold a rental or you got rid of that boat that was costing you, you gotta put that money somewhere. And I really think we're seeing that. It's just a slow trickle. And that could also take 18 months to 3 years for that process to fully vet out, because everyone doesn't move at the same pace.
Yeah.
For me, when rates do cut, I do think we get a pullback. But if people can start selling their homes again, I'm very interested in what that does to the market. um, just because there are a lot of people out there with several properties that maybe it just hasn't worked out, or the whole Airbnb thing. That equity has to go somewhere, and there's not many other things people invest in besides homes that are a lump sum like that. A $500,000 investment
Yeah.
for somebody like that, you're not going to get that in car collection, or your baseball card collection, or even your gold
Right.
that you got buried in the backyard. So um,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think for for a lot of these names, the run up to the cut is what where the biggest opportunity is for now. And then if you do get a pullback on the actual cut, you just you see where things want to land and where they pivot. So I look at something. I'll just use an example. MDB software stock, you know, low float and all that kind of uh, sort of a risk on kind of high beta thing. But anyway, so pivots on that. Um, we've been messing around with this 220 spot for a while. You're going into earnings. Let's say the run up into the rate cut, if it wants to challenge that pivot above, maybe not that second pivot above, but 285. And then you get a pullback on the cut. Well, we know where it's probably going to go. It's either going to go to the middle of that zone, or it's going to fall all the way to the pivot, maybe wick below that next one. But you just set up again, and you're right back where you were, and you look for that equilibrium. And I've been through this enough with Snow, Roku, whomever, um, to kind of see what's going to happen. But you can't get overly bearish on the macro and think that you're going to short these things 50% from here. If they get a pullback of 30% or more, it's going to probably be from above this. That's just how I'm approaching it. That's what Flow's telling me, and I just sort of trade around that idea when I go into these trades.
yeah, I mean, it's the what do you want to call it? How do you say that, the what's going to cause the pullback? Like, it's just a
Yeah,
blanket vanilla thing. Whatever causes the pullback isn't going to make everything pull back. It's going to be good for some things, it's going to be bad for other things. And if we're just talking
yeah,
rate cuts, kind of identified that with the ones we've already had both directions. um, the companies that are in debt or borrow money or are leveraged don't do well, and that's just kind of how that works. Anyone
yeah,
that deals with lending of money, your banks and whatnot, they do really well when we get the cut. So you kind of got to just know where to swim depending on the current. But the overall market pullback, that overall we're just going to get this big bullish red day sediment, I just don't. Unfollow.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Right.
It just, when's the last time that happened? We had like a global pandemic, and it only happened for like a month and a half. I mean,
Right.
so just in perspective, if you go off of that, yeah, it's usually short lived, and it's usually pretty focused on something when we have a pullback. So if you have a thesis for a pullback, um, I'm all game. But I would rather focus. Like you always say, focusing on the macro. I'd rather focus on just for me the TA on charts like SPY
Yeah.
to kind of get a direction and to get an understanding where this should actively be moving. Um, don't overcomplicate it.
Uh, right. Yeah. And I mean and I'll say on the flow side, there have been some, some days where I'm like, if I use the term, I think whales are off sides here. Um, they tend to then react to that and, correct it and just bring the stock back. That equilibrium concept has been really good for me. Um, because I mean, that's the easiest trade is the overreaction back to market maker neutral or whatever, and um, trying to identify that has really been the easiest setup for me. I mean, particularly on the option side, because when you get big pullbacks like that, there's a lot of despair of people bailing out on the calls, so you get a discount on those. Now you're dealing with time and all that, so you have to be careful with that. But I mean, you lower your risk when it's like this kind of low IV stock, the market maker neutral spots 2.5% or 3% from here. So yeah, it's probably going to retrace to that. So when DE or a stock like that, has a couple bad days, that's where you can hop in. LLY, you called it simple relief. I agree. I think that's what it is, but upside there and very good because you get a flush in the morning and then it regroups and might only finish up 1% on the day, but some of those options are, you get 50% quickly and 300%, whatever. But you just go small. And I trying to find the follow through to the moon isn't what I would do. Um, Noticing Tim's had this big pullback and saying, "Well, I'm going to short it some more." I don't think that's the thing to do either. You find where the sentiment is, and I think you just sort of you question it a little bit. I always talk about how whenever stock's a big punchline on Twitter, I often then notice that the flow situation is starting to look pretty good, and then they turn around. So yeah, just yeah, be careful about retail groupthink. I don't think you want to get involved with those guys when they start talking their high conviction uh, 1 day to expiration swing. You just you don't want to get into that world. There's no money to be made there.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't said it in a while because they have not performed over there well, but I follow Twitter for what not to trade on
Yeah,
um, kind of combo with that fat green candle, selling the fat green candles. We'll sell into Twitter too. I mean,
yeah,
if they're starting to talk, I preach on being first and early and doing stuff that no one knows about. But if they start talking about it, sell into them. Pump it with them. Be like, yeah, it's great. I got some for you too. You want some open for 550? Here, take it off my hands.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and
yeah.
just go to the next trade. I don't. I've been searching for that lately, P. Like what I don't I don't know how to say it without being kind of arrogant, but what makes me different than most people? And like why is it not? I don't want to say easy because there's always going to be some struggles, and there's
Yeah.
some weeks that aren't easy, and there's some times where you just have to shut it off and reset and start over. But what is it that makes some of these like just ridiculously like what are we like SOC? Um, this open, but probably the first move, not the second one. The second one you had to be kind of decisive. Um,
Yeah.
Redfin. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. But why are like the easy ones easy for me, and they're not they don't seem as easy for everyone else. I mean, that's kind of oversimplifying it, but
Yeah, I think part of it is they they need the money that's in their account. They need access to it for those day trades where they start over every day, and they're just churning the same $1,500, $3,000, and when they have a bad month, they just reset the account and and do that again. So if they're going to sit in a stock, that taking 1,000 of that 3,000 and parking it in something where once the setup takes off, they're going to make $200 has limited appeal compared to buying a $200 contract that they might be able to sell for 1,000 if everything lines up with their diagonal lines on the little chart, and then they draw it that they take their little hand drawn notes app thing and draw the line up. If all that occurs, I'm going to turn this 3,000 into 12 or 15,000 within a week or so. And the appeal of those gains, those imagined gains, keeps them from doing the park and wait thing. That rather than that, they can't have the discipline to say, I'm just going to have this little options trading account, and then I'm going to try to raise 5 or 8,000, and I'm going to put it in this account, and I'm going to swing trade in that one. Like, a lot of guys don't seem to be able to do that, and let alone find the stocks to even buy within that account. But they don't even have the frame of mind to even set themselves up for success. And so, that's the first problem to me.
yeah, I mean, I, I always just point to the options too. I mean, if that's how you're honestly trading from the start, it's got to feel like gambling. I mean, where
Yeah,
you
yeah,
put your $60 down, and either you're gonna win or you're gonna lose your $60, and that's just not the case with trading shares. If you
yeah.
put your $60 down and it doesn't work out, you're probably getting 50 back.
Right.
And if not, you need to change how you're trading. But you just don't. I don't think you get that in the short term options. It is all or nothing, and it just creates that. I don't know. It creates that mental blockage that you kind of can. You're using it as an asset. And I said it last week. I tried to explain it last week, but it just kind of sticks with me. Like, I don't ever feel like I'm like gambling 5K. You know what I mean? I don't. I feel like I
Yeah.
might be gambling 300 or 500 bucks, right? But it's not the whole 5K or whatever the case may be, or the whole thousand. It's just not.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. No, I think that's an important point, and
well,
it's
it's a big part of the mentality that helps me is that I know I'm taking something I have, I've worked hard for, I'm proud of, right? And then I'm buying something that I'm just going to sell for more. I never feel like I'm risking this all. I just don't.
yeah. Well, and it really the like when they use the term portfolio, and then what's in it are a bunch of weekly options. It's really not a portfolio. I mean, that's
Sure.
you're really stretching the definition of that. So yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you, and it's why the simplest way I can say it is, don't start over every day.
Yeah.
It's and and part of that, I mean, it's when I went, 80/20 shares and options years ago. Um, we were maybe in halfway into year two or so of us doing this thing. The reason for that is it was not even that I was like losing on options trades with great regularity or anything. It was just that I was so sick of finding these great setups, and I traded for 20 minutes and the move lasts a month. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
like the stock gets on this huge uptrend, and I'm just like jumping in and out of it, and just missing the move. Now the answer was not to hold the options longer, but it was get a piece of the work, buy some damn shares. And so that's what I started doing. I mean, most things that you see in my notes, I have shares in that stuff, and now I'm just, trading kind of the daily patterns of these things, the flush in the morning, recovery, or whatever, pop and fade, puke and rally, like all that stuff. So I still do the same approach with notes, but um, the shares being there, sleep a lot better, feels a lot better to actually see, the results of my work kind of pan out, and that's what led me to that.
No, it's interesting because even there, like I agree with everything you say, but personally, I'm not trying to trade through the move, right? Like instead of doing
Yeah,
those little A to B trades, I would much rather just check my account after my golf round every day and it be up 5 to 7%, right? And we just keep doing that
yeah,
for a
sure.
month. Um, but I think that's important because you have to kind of curtail what you do to how you're where you are in the season of your life. I mean, like if you are at work and you have that free hour, why wouldn't you use it to your advantage every day? Where um, you know, fortunately, I don't have to do that. But
Yeah,
that
sure. Yeah,
like the trade the open thing that you've been talking about lately, like it just fits your life. So that's where you attack. Um,
yeah,
Kind of reverts back to
yeah. And I
the
mean,
thing
in
I said about.
particular,
Go ahead.
ever
Go ahead.
since we started talking about um, news and, well, looking for stocks I follow to get some news. It's why the day after ER is so good on so many of these, but other kind of news too. LLY has some news, and pops up 1.5% or drops 4%, or whatever, and then seizing that opportunity early in the day, has been very good for me. Same with the ER casino thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I like to have the bulk of what I do just be that account that I don't really look at that much. And that's why, like, when people ask me about the short term setup on the quantum computing or rare earth or whatever, and I say it, and I don't mean it dismissively, but like, I'm not really after nickels and dimes in those things. Like, so I just let them go. And I from the original spot, I sold half of it when I got, kind of got that initial move, but I plan to keep a lot of those for a pretty long time. I have a spot where, yeah, I'd go ahead and just bail out on them, but I just let them go, and let the story play out. There's a big story there, and it's nowhere near over on either of those that I just mentioned. So yeah, I'll give them some room, and um, that's worked well for me too.
Never really get this deep into it, but you got any Barrett Gold still?
Yeah,
Did you buy?
yeah.
Did you get down in there the 15, 16 down there?
It's
So
yeah, 16, 20 something.
and you're
Yeah.
keeping it.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Interesting. Interesting.
I mean, that's part, I guess, just my view of global events over the next 10 years. I just, gold might do something. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, those, at this point, the Barrett gold position is the same as the gold in my safe.
Sure.
That the thesis is the same, so I'm just keeping
It
it.
ain't coming
Yeah.
back either. You're not
Yeah.
getting. You're not gonna be able to buy that asset at that price you got it again for
Right. Yeah.
maybe ever.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this conversation kind of shows like the commonality we have. We are really trying to be first. We're trying to be way ahead of the initial move, the real move, and the moon move. And
Yeah.
sometimes that takes a few years to pan out. Um, yeah.
Well,
But
like, okay, so just,
go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, real quick example. What do you say to someone who takes this chart right now and says, "Oh man, it's ready to run"? Like, I mean,
Lemonade.
lemonade. I mean, look at my lines. Look at how even like close together they look
I didn't
compared
fucking.
to what we're at.
I didn't believe you at 30. So what do you think I'm gonna say at 60? Because when you called that pullback at 30, I was like, no. The only thing
Yeah,
that
yeah,
pullback at 30 did was make me look at Root when Root pulled back. But
yeah, yeah.
No, no, not it. I needed a little more, sir. Even though it was,
Yeah.
a, 200 on the daily test, pretty much right on the button. Just our entry's
Yeah.
better. I
Well, I
have
mean,
that problem. Our entry's better. If
it's
I'm
a,
buying 100% above our levels, P, there's got to be a really good reason. Um,
I mean, it's at the 200, but it's not Johnson and Johnson.
yeah,
You know what I
exactly,
mean? So like it's lemonade. So
exactly.
yeah, that it's harder to trust it
Well,
at that
and
point.
that's kind of like a, what do you want to call it? It's something I use in general to as like for discipline. But yeah, if something's moved 100% and I missed it and I already traded it and it's off my levels, I'm not re-entering it, and it just makes me like go back to the original trade and what I should have done. So if I wanted to keep lemonade and trade it, I should have stayed in it. And I mean that's probably my biggest flaw. It's just walking away, letting the setup
Yeah.
happen again. But I mean, there's just so much out there that I'm looking for the safest ones. And yeah, it's funny you brought that up because I do think about that all the time. That 30 was a great entry, P.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so it's just and I think too as far as like questions in the room and things, I think it was a pretty good week for that in terms of what people brought up. Especially during the red days, red mornings, you don't want to get caught up in the negative euphoria of it. Instead, look around, look at stocks you've traded, see how they're reacting to it. And you know, I particularly if I think we're going to just have a really nasty morning, you'll only see one or two stocks in my notes, and they're stocks that are around a pivot, and First Solar going back under 200, MSTR, just those those pre-split pivots that I've retraded on this whole thing. Like I'm just laser focused right there, and don't really care so much about you know Palantir being down 20% in a week. Doesn't really do much for me, but stick with what you know. Have that basket. It's been a while since I updated my list of that, but there's six or seven stocks, and over the course of a month, 3 months, maybe I'm really only actually on three of those, and I have my reasons for that. So that's a pretty good conversation if someone wants to have it with me. Figure out what those were. I mean, it used to be Macy's. I
Yeah,
haven't returned to that one in a long
yeah.
time, but and there's reasons why I zero in on particular ones like that. So lately it's MSTR LLY, but that early on, before I took a lot of other steps. I mean that was one of the first things um, that really helped me a lot, is just to have kind of collection of stocks I know well. And I noticed that whatever someone's style is, they seem to kind of do that. Even um, the, the swing traders who will just have these pretty massive positions, much bigger than what I would do in UUUU or something, and just moving in and out of those and seeing how that plays out. Um, Definitely a lot of ways to do it, but that commonality of I got this handful of stocks that I keep an eye on, constantly, does I think help people.
Yeah, swing traders that oversized. Trust me, we're taking some out early. that two
Yeah, yeah,
that two trades thing is really like, I don't want to say 50, but it's like 50 for some people. And you need to have the ammunition to make those sells. So you got to have big sizing. Yeah, that all
yeah,
reverts
yeah,
back to that. It's an asset. We don't in some of the setups. It's not everyone. That's why you size according. But some of them feel like you not that you can't lose, but that you are in control and you do kind of know how they move. You'll win with time, so it doesn't really affect you. You just go back to work or your daily life. Um,
yeah, yeah.
no, I wanted to before we get into the boring stuff. What was gonna? How was I gonna say it? Though you said something about the room and the questions. It was really good last week. It did kind of get a little. is the sky falling at the beginning of the week, but I think just through conversation, we all had a good laugh about that. But it was so good that I even
Yeah.
dropped a couple of like, do this for the next 3 days, and I never do that. Um, just because the conversations are getting good, and I can see people are trying to drive their own boat and not throw a rope to my boat and let me pull them along, or the same with you,
Yeah.
right? Like, let me just attach to what you're doing. They're independent plays, so definitely here to help on that and give as much context as I can. And that and man, I got there was 3 or 4 in the group, and I got 2 or 3 private messages of just people that had great weeks or great months so far. So um, that's what I'm here for. I mean that feels great. I've had several 5-figure days, several 5-figure trades, kind of like the college threesome thing. The kind of the nostalgia
Yeah.
and the what runs off of that a little bit. But seeing people succeed really um, is really what I'm in it for. Because I mean, why? I'm financially free. Why wouldn't I want that for everybody? If I didn't, that would just be super, super greedy. Especially people that I've built a relationship with over the last few years. So this week for me
Yeah.
was like super motivating. Um, kind of reiterated that we're on the right path with everything we've been doing and changing the last few weeks or months, even with the less is more and table pounders and stuff like that. So um, but without those people standing up, putting themselves out there, we'll never know. So good work everyone in the room that did that last week. And it was kind of fun Monday, Tuesday, why everyone's crying and we're just waiting like tigers to
Yeah.
to attack, and then we pounce and get that good push on Friday, kind of set everybody up good for the weekend. So um, yeah, thank you. I guess it's thank you to everyone in the room for being a part of it.
And yeah, and if and I do play some downside, but I would say that the only setup I like for shorting something is there's a pivot below, and I'm just sort of I see that yeah, we're probably going to test that pivot. So and it's just to it, not through it. And so there's your pullback. You can just sit out of that completely, wait for the pullback, and the move back up is often better. I mean, if MSTR wicks below 334 and gets into the 320s in the first 30 minutes of the day, um, yeah, it's probably not just going to just collapse. I mean, there's just too much. It's a little too complicated in terms of positions that are out there for that to happen. So it's gonna bounce back. But yeah, look, I mean, looking at this, it's just Nasdaq real quick. You look at where the month started. Um, had a pretty nasty candle on August 1st, but other than that, I mean, we're just pretty much where we started the month. And so if you had a great month during that, you're doing a really nice job of moving in and out of some of these positions, rather than just you get the explosive move up and holding all the way through this last pullback. That really wasn't how to do it for a lot of these swing setups. But if you got Nvidia, AVGO, that stuff back in March, then this is nothing. I mean, this little drop we had was absolutely nothing. So, um, but anyway, it was just kind of an interesting Friday candle to me. This, I guess it's a doji. I don't know, but
Yeah, yeah. Hey, turn that to a
yeah,
weekly real quick.
yeah,
I mean, that's really what if you're making decisions.
yeah,
If you're picking levels and making decisions right now in tight consolidation, this is the only chart you should be letting creep into your brain.
right,
I will go the other way though, because I wanted to say it when you were talking about your downside options. But if your downside options, daily RTL levels king. But for
yeah.
overall picture, these wicks on these candles, I mean, there's just so many commonalities in the last month and a half here. You can kind of see the bottom being built.
Uh, yeah, and I mean, one of the things. Okay, so you see the visual of the of the wicks, and give us a quick rundown of what that means in terms of buyers and sellers and what's happening. 'Cause if the sellers are, if the sellers are kind of trying to force a candle down, and it keeps wicking, the wick gets longer and longer back up. What mechanically is happening in the market when that
There's just no
happens?
share. I mean, I've talked about the Apple thing, right? They want to come to the market every
Yeah.
day, and to keep that simple, they just want transactions. Like that's all they want. So they have to find buyers and sellers. And when you get wicks like that, and you don't get consistent price movement, like we started at 200 and we ended up at 203, and the next day 202 to 205, without that consistent movement or a full body candle, they're just looking for liquidity. Um, and it usually is centralized, so you get that like that neutral price. But when you get big wicks, it's just them. That's why they don't last because there's just no buyers or sellers in that price. Um,
Yeah.
and they need transactions. So it's kind of the fight of the two things. Where can I? People call it stop loss rating. I think that's a horrible term. But where's people have orders in at that we can have some transactions? It's really that simple.
Yeah, no, it is. And when I talk about, like, when my note says, and this is on a much smaller time frame, but when I say that, like, I'm early on, I'm going to buy into strength, like that. I I've looked at charts long enough that you can see where you get a candle and it's kind of struggling, or where, okay, they've got some momentum here. And I mean, momentum trading isn't my favorite thing to do. I mean, really the only time I do it is those days after earnings, where it's like we're gonna get a sustained move here. Might be 15 minutes, might be an hour, whatever. But that's where you want to get in. Is if you're an options trader, that's where you want to be. You cannot buy options into indecision, uh, because now the time is against you. In addition to, am I correct or not? And I see people say there's nothing more painful than being right on the direction and wrong on the time.
Sure.
Uh, that's the voice of an options trader right there. Why do you give a shit about the time so much? Because your options expired. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you're gonna get into options, you really have to respect what they are, um, and that that to get time on your side, you have to have an explosive move. And so without that, you don't really want to mess with that setup.
Yeah, I don't want to mess with that setup. Sorry.
There you go. And I mean, that's something that's really important for people to figure out too. So then, options should still matter to you because they do indicate that direction. So our whole setup is built on that. So you care a lot about flow, for someone who doesn't trade options, and
Oh,
I
a
think
ton.
there's a lot of wisdom in that. So yeah, that's the other side.
Yeah, no, I don't say that probably in this session, but yeah, I mean, like it's a big guide for me. I mean, if I didn't need options, I would. Why would I need you? I mean, I don't like to say it like that, but why would I need you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, no, right, right,
I
exactly,
mean,
yeah. Because
that's
that's all I'm
pretty.
looking at.
If my shit worked without, I mean, if my shit, I always said back in the day, like before I met P, the 7 to 3 was probably more, but I'm 8 and 2 now, and that is a big difference. That one trade is a big difference in profitability and sustainability, um,
Yeah,
and in general. So like, yeah, it's a huge guide. I don't really, I mean, if I enter trades now and without option backing, they're short term swings or scalps or momentum trades.
yeah, yeah,
Because I need that thesis. It's just an extra check, and um, the big money. That's what they're. I mean, it's just where what they use. I mean, you're talking some of these
yeah.
things are like $1 million purchases on options, not even on the share side. That's just, I mean, that's fuck you money. It really is. So they have more skin in the game. They have more to lose than me. They're
Yeah.
probably more educated than me. Um, they probably been doing this longer for me. I ain't fighting it. I ain't fighting it. So
Yeah, and I mean, it's just we talk about share control, and some of those option setups. That's your every contract that's 100 shares you're controlling. So
yeah, and I've seen it enough too. Like there's been
yeah,
some prices or movements that just didn't make sense from my normal system, that totally panned out, and it wasn't TA that it followed. So
Yeah, right. And then we've been at it long enough. What's TA first? What's flow first? And I've seen enough where you'll bring something up in collabs and like I don't really have anything in the option side, and then it might even just be Monday morning.
oh
I'm
sure,
slamming it into collabs, because like there it is
I do that
to
on
follow through.
purpose. I do that on purpose.
Yeah,
I really do that
yeah,
on purpose. There's a couple of them where like I know. Well, I used to just wait until Monday and drop them to try to be
yeah.
first, but then I'd forget
Right,
or
right.
something, and you would drop it, and I'd be like, "Damn it!" So now I'm like, I
Yeah,
know this is gonna come up by Wednesday. Let me give
right.
Professor a bit of a head start on it.
Yeah.
But no, so I've never said this probably to you, and um, I know we have a good enough relationship. I can say things like this now, but I can find 10, 15, 20% trades without you all day. I don't fucking need you for that. But for the
Yeah,
shit that's going to move 200%, like lead
yeah.
pipe
Right, right.
locked, like the
Yeah,
5.6x I got on Rigetti, are you kidding me?
yeah.
Like, I'm not getting that without you. So it's just not, never. I mean, the trades like that I did before you was like NVIDIA. It was just like
Yeah.
the big shit that does move like that through time. But a 10x on a year, maybe Tesla I did okay like that once or twice, but no, that's all options driven. Can't hide on
Yeah.
those smalls, man.
Yep, yep. All right, so let me get into some boring stuff, and then
Get to
move
work.
into the fun the fun session. All right, so I want to actually start with the 10-year, because that was a pretty dramatic move on Friday. But you zoom out even on a daily, and we're just here. That 4.2 seems really important. So it gets towards 4.2. You just want to be mindful. Um, watch the pop and fade. I think we very well could have that on Monday. And So yeah, you just want to be careful when this gets real active. Just be mindful, but they're just keeping it in this zone. And the mechanics of what they're trying to do with bonds, I don't really get that much into that. But I just know to watch this. And as long as it doesn't spike to 5, I don't think there's any real alarm bells or anything. But just your day to day movement, you just want to keep an eye on it.
It's been consistent. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah. All right. Get into silver. Have continued to say that the silver red day buys keep panning out, and just kind of waiting for it to test 40 and see what happens. But really nice day on Friday for them too.
Yeah, it's better than gold. There's more left on the bone. I think we said that. Miners in general, if
Yeah.
you're in,
Yeah.
just hang out. I mean,
Yeah, gold.
Professor said it about Barrett Gold. It probably applies to the rest too.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, I think you could see a grind up here. Until you get just an oversold fat red candle on gold, it's going to be hard to enter those. And so your only chance to enter them to me is again the news on individual names and the really crappy ones like the SPSWs. Um, you know, Warlord lands a helicopter, steals their shit, stock down 12%. Like, okay, now I'll look at that one. But you can't, you got to wait for that. So it's just to enter gold day to day or DCA something up here wouldn't really be what I would mess with.
No, you should already be there.
Yeah.
Fuck,
China.
even if you watch this session and don't apply to, you're not in our room, it ain't your thing, which is totally cool. You should still have some gold and silver because we've been talking about that since
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
January in this session every week. Um,
Yeah, I mean that was my big shot call thesis was on gold making that
yeah,
move. So
3,400, yeah.
yeah. Um, China, pretty strong to me. So but I don't invest in the whole Hang Seng, okay, but like some individual names I think are gonna hit your scanners, I would say, for China.
Who, me?
Um, Yeah, yeah,
I know,
right.
there's
Yeah, I know some already had.
there's China stocks. Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shit, damn it!
Yeah.
I better look into that.
Yep. Um,
Chilling. Let's go.
Oil. Yeah, I like the pullback here. The retrace 68, 72, something like that. But again, I don't. You don't need a boner candle to do well in oil stocks. I think a lot of them are just in really good shape, and I'm seeing a. We'll be talking about it. But there's like a November, February flow setup that I think is looking pretty good on some oil. So slow movers, you got to kind of know the style of those stocks, but I do like to have some um, positions there. Uh, Pretty sustained pullback in natural gas. You know, getting into the 250 area. So yeah, I'm getting interested um, to read that and just to see. It's going to be news that breaks this particular downtrend, but still really interested in those. If you're in the combo names, it's a little safer because they got a little protection from the oil side of things. Leveraged ETFs really are struggling, so I've been saying to avoid those for a long time, and that continues.
Yeah, I think the commodity price won't be the news that moves the sector. It'll be some
Yeah.
political investments, partnerships, yada yada yada.
Uh, Copper, still quiet. Good spot to build some positions. Mindful of this making a move down from here to the 420s or something like that. But I just don't think I don't think you're going to get a full breakdown below my pivot here. I don't see that setup in options. So mid candle recovery is more likely to push back to 5 at some point winter, into next year. Um, Infrastructure spending is probably what you need to see for that to happen. So yeah. Uranium,
There we go.
kind of like what I'm seeing here, or at least a retest of 80. Again, no wicks on these candles because it's a different kind of futures movement. But yeah, there's some solid setups in uranium. You've gotten a pullback that you should understand by now what it means. It's not that they're going to drop 50%.
Yeah, there's still some. There's a lot left to pan out there, um,
Yeah.
especially in the bigger names. I mean, we kind of nailed the smaller names, but I think the bigger names will do well. A lot of newer stocks, so a little harder to read on my end, but Night is young over there still. It's clean energy.
Yep. All right. Can I do it?
Yeah, why not?
Talk Bitcoin. All right. Um, so this and yeah, I guess I will go ahead and show people my spots here, but I talked about
Sorry.
yeah, I know. I talked about this pivot. I said it's maybe my best pivot. This is one of my best pivots. 334, 334. So like you test this pivot, you wick below it, you just buy it. And then I said, the pivot above. Um, my target was to get into the middle of the zone this week. It got above the middle of the zone on Friday. So that was why I'm just glad I bought some. And we'll see if we want to test above. Bitcoin itself, um, kind of spent the weekend, had the big pop, and then gave a little back or whatever. But yeah, I mean that it didn't go test 100 or even 107 or something like that. Kind of significant to me. 132, I'm still sticking with it. I That's where I think we pop to that. Might be short lived, but yeah, that's where I am. And So we'll do this again. Let's see what happens.
Where are we at? 132. If you take 132, I'll take 101. Let's see who hits first.
Okay.
Let's
All
see who
right. I
hits
like
first.
it.
Because I'm
I
on.
like
I mean, I don't really have that strong of an opinion, but I'd take that other side. Um,
All right.
do you have 202 on MSTR? Sorry, I gotta do this.
Oh, I'll call up my pivots here.
Yeah, you have so many.
Yeah. All right, I got to zoom out here. All right, let's go here.
No, I don't
No,
have to.
but the reason for that is that these are pre-split pivots.
Do you
So
have
the first pivot I ever
the,
drew was 274 the first time,
the first time? Yeah, yeah.
and yeah,
And then
and then
466 is
uh,
what I have on the
so
top.
yeah, yeah, 488 is my top, and then there's 450. So you're in between those two spots.
Yeah, that's a
So
pre-split line though, because I put that on the chart telling you to sell
yeah,
when it was. I was
right.
like, if you get here, just get rid of it. And I mean, that's been pretty good, but we are definitely riding the 50 into that up to the weekly. So it's a squeeze stock if
Yeah,
there ever was one.
I this last round of the stock before the election and all of that. I was in like 130 to 220. Was sort of like when I was getting like, really getting back into it. Although I did buy a shitload more coin for that comparable setup, just because I felt like coin had more staying power. And you see with coin, like you talk about selling into fat green candles. I got the fuck out of MSTR on some of these ones. When it was that first surge into the 400s. I bailed the hell out of it then. Did not top ticket, didn't care. Got back into it on the retrace of these pivots, and I've just been, kind of been there ever since. But yeah, a lot of pivots on this thing, and they've done well for me. Um,
I said last week, I still think the data center angle that you talked about quite some time ago is going to come back
yeah,
from
and
the
your
miners to the data centers.
Irens and Bitdeers of the world.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yep.
I'm with you. Yep. Um, all right, so that's well, I guess we can. You want to do a quick
Yeah, do a quick
pulse
spot.
check on
Yeah.
supply? Yeah.
We got it so
All
wrong
right.
last week, so.
Yeah. I don't have much. I mean, it's still just that um like 575 January, 585 March, probably the one. Um there aren't a lot of compliments to it. That 585 March is sort of like an outlier, the last of the Mohicans of the puts. So why are they not doing 620 or something? It's a rhetorical question, but to have a read, I would need that, and I don't have that. So
Yeah, and that trend continues into the rates. I think the rates, you get that short term
yeah,
pullback, a little panic. We're getting too close to the 660 top. That's gonna have to get adjusted, or not for me, for other people, because that's kind of in the top. But um, yeah, I still see 630 as kind of where we fight um, the rest of the way. So 630, 660, kind of the zone. Rates might take us below that for a little bit, but not long. As for this week, we're gonna pull back just because how that Friday candle is. So, even the
yeah,
635, 638, probably expected. Good spot to have the bottom of the wick on the weekly at the end of the week. That's what I'm looking for.
yeah. No, I'm definitely definitely with you there. And again, you know, short term despair for people who bought the top, or people will flip bearish on a bad day, and so that's the whole story is just going to keep playing out, and you just got to look past all that.
Yeah, if you're drawing like a short-term pivot line, that's what I'd be taking right there.
Yeah.
5 candles, touched them all. Woohoo!
Good stuff.
Awesome. You ready to work, P?
Yeah, let's do it.
All
And
right. Like,
I'm yeah, go ahead.
like and subscribe. Link somewhere, people.